And let's now take you to Afghanistan, where more extreme forces have risen to fight the extreme. I'm talking about what happened just last evening. A Taliban governor was killed in a suicide attack. It happened in the Balkh province. Do you see the irony here? For the longest time, the Taliban were the ones killing others. In fact, they still are. But what has changed here is that now there is a terror group hunting the hardliners. The Taliban governor who died was Mohammad Dawod Muzammil. He was in his office in the provincial capital of Mazar-e-Sharif. That is when the suicide bomber detonated himself. Muzammil is not the first Taliban official to have been killed in the last couple of years, and chances are he will not be the last. The question is, who is coming for the Taliban? And we will answer that in just a bit. First, a little recap here. The Taliban emerged in the 1990s with a promise to restore peace and security, also enforce their version of the Sharia law. In 1996, the Taliban captured the Afghan capital. In 2001, the American forces invaded Afghanistan. In 2021, the Taliban ensured the same American forces fled the country in the shadows of the night. What happens then? A force more extreme rose to fight the Taliban. In April, a local Taliban leader and his security guard were targeted. ISIS-K, ISIS Khorasan, planted an IED under the vehicle of the Taliban leader. In August 2022, there was a blast in Kabul. In September, there was a blast outside a mosque in Herat. 18 people lost their lives. Among them was a Taliban cleric. His name was Majib Rahman Ansari. You see, they are not coincidences. The Taliban has become the target in Afghanistan. According to one estimate, there have been at least 220 remote explosive and suicide attacks targeting the Taliban leaders. So, who is targeting the Taliban? The ISIS-K, the Islamic State Khorasan. You see, it struck the Taliban very early into its second stint. Who remembers the Kabul airport blast? So, what does the ISIS-K really want? It wants to drive the Taliban out of Afghanistan because the ISIS-K believes that the Taliban's beliefs are not extreme enough. Let's just remind you here that the Taliban has banned women from public life, universities, colleges, salons, parks. The Taliban is cracking down on international NGOs, foreign media. But none of that is extreme enough or conservative enough for the ISIS-K. Also, the two groups disagree over nationalism. You see, the Taliban wants to rule all of Afghanistan, and the ISIS opposes the very idea of nationalism. And now that the Taliban is losing control of Afghanistan, now that the many political, social, and economic problems have come back to bite the Taliban regime, now that the Taliban have exposed themselves by failing to address Afghanistan's basic issues like poverty, hunger, the ISIS-K is now trying to turn the tide against the Taliban. Did you know, as per one estimate, 90% of Afghans do not have enough to eat? Afghans are becoming more and more fed up with the Taliban, and this is working in favor of the ISIS Khorasan because the frustrated youth in the country are joining the ranks of the ISIS-K to fight the Taliban. So what can the Taliban do about this? In one word, nothing. The ISIS-K may have just a fraction of fighters compared to the Taliban, but the latter does not even have the most basic resources to finance a counter-insurgency operation. The hardliners have no money to take on a more extreme group. And what does that mean? What really do these suicide attacks mean? That this may be just the beginning of another prolonged war. That there is no peace in sight in Afghanistan. And whom do you blame? the Taliban or the ISIS-K. They are not the only villains in this story. You see, the Americans are responsible as well. So are its allies who fought in this war-torn country. They convinced the people, they lied to themselves that peace will be able to flow from the barrel of the gun. And what happened after 20 years of war? What happened after the civil war? Just look at where Afghanistan is today. WION now available in your country. Download the app now. Get all the updates on the move.